Let's talk about the phases of the moon. Half of the moon is always lit up by the sun. As the moon orbits the earth, we see different parts of the lighted area. The revolution of the moon around the earth makes the moon look as if it is changing shape in the sky. This is caused by different angles from which we see the lighted part of the moon's surface. These are called phases of the moon. A moon makes one complete revolution around the earth in 27 1/3 to 29 1/2 days. The moon passes through 4 major shapes during a cycle that repeats itself every 29 1/2 days. The phases always follow one another in the same order: new moon, first quarter, third quarter, and full moon. New moon. The lighted side of the moon faces away from the earth. This means that the sun, earth, and moon are almost in a straight line, with the moon in between the sun and the earth. The moon that we see looks very dark. New moons are very difficult to see because new moon is always closest to the sun. In other words, the sun isn't shining on the moon from Earth's perspective. That's what makes it so hard to see a new moon. If the sun is on the other side of the moon, then it means that this is the new moon. And this is really the first phase of the 8 major phases of the moon. First quarter moon. The right half of the moon appears lighted and the left side of the moon appears dark. During the time between the new moon and the first quarter moon, the part of the moon that appears lighted gets larger and larger every day and will continue to grow until the full moon. It's called first quarter moon because it's 1/4 of the way through its cycle back to a new moon. The last quarter moon, sometimes called third quarter. The left half of the moon appears lighted and the right side of the moon appears dark. During the time between the full moon and the last quarter moon, the part of the moon that appears lighted gets smaller and smaller every day. It will continue to shrink until the new moon, when the cycle starts all over again. It has cycled through 3/4 of its life, but it has reversed which side is lit by the sun. And instead of it progressively appearing fuller, we begin to see less of the moon. It visibly appears to be shrinking as it approaches back to a new moon. Full moon. The lighted side of the moon faces the earth. This means that the earth, sun, and moon are nearly in a straight line, with the earth in the middle. The moon that we see is very bright from the sunlight reflecting of it. When the moon is on the opposite side of the earth, the sun illuminates in its full. At this point, the moon has moved halfway through its orbit at 180 degrees. Hey there! There are also 4 other phases of the moon sometimes used. Waxing crescent moon. This moon can be seen after the new moon, but before the first quarter moon. The crescent will grow larger and larger every day until the moon looks like the first quarter moon. Waxing means increasing or growing larger. We can see the moon at a slight angle with only a partial bit of it lit up. At this point, the crescent is still very thin, similar to the new moon. A waxing crescent moon is still close to the moon, but it has moved a bit to the east. Waxing gibbous moon. This moon can be seen after the first quarter moon, but before the full moon. The amount of the moon that we can see will grow larger and larger every day. Waxing means increasing or growing larger. And gibbous simply means convex, that it's more than half of a circle but less than a full circle. In this phase, we are very close to the moon being fully lit up from the sun. As the moon orbits the earth more so, it finally approaches a full moon. Waning gibbous moon, this moon can be seen after the full moon, but before the last quarter moon. The amount of the moon that we can see will grow smaller and smaller every day. Waning means decreasing or growing smaller. Waning gibbous moon means that its illuminated side is starting to shrink from a full moon. Waning means that the moon appears to recede in size because the sun is progressively illuminating a smaller portion of its visible surface. Waning crescent moon. This moon can be seen after the last quarter moon and before the new moon. The crescent will grow smaller and smaller every day until the moon looks like the new moon. Waning means decreasing or growing smaller. Waning crescent moon. When the moon has completed its full 360 degrees orbit around the earth, we are back to the first phase. The new moon phase marks the starting point of a brand new cycle of the moon. The moon is the only natural satellite that Earth has. A satellite is an object that revolves around a larger object. The moon does not produce its own light. It only reflects the light coming from the sun. Since the moon is revolving around the earth, the amount of light it reflects from the sun varies as it changes its position. Now, can you tell me what is the difference between waxing and waning? Waxing is a time given to the period of the moon before the moon becomes a full moon and after it is a new moon. On the other hand, waning is a term given to the period of the moon when the moon has not become a full moon but now has become a full moon. Can you get it? That's waxing and waning. Can you guess now what phases of the moon are these? Let's try it. In number 1, what is it? It's new moon. How about number 2? It is waxing crescent. How about number 3? It is the first quarter moon. How about number 4? It is the waxing gibbous. How about number 5? It is the full moon. How about in number 6? It is waning gibbous. How about number 7? It is the third quarter moon. How about number 8? It is the waning crescent. And now we're back to new moon. Very good, congratulations! The sun always lights up half of the moon. Then, the other half of it is in complete darkness. The moonlight we see is just reflected sunlight. We know this very well because this is the day and night on Earth that we experience on Earth. But from our viewpoint of the moon, we see the same day-night line, which are the phases of the moon. When you're out at night, remember that the phases of the moon depend on the angle the sun is hitting it. It also depends on the point of view where on Earth you see the moon. The sun shines on the moon, but we can only see half of the moon. During a full moon, the entire lit surface is facing us. But for a new moon, the lit surface is pointing away from the Earth. At all times, the sun illuminates half of the moon. This is the same as Earth because half the Earth is lit during the day and half of it is in darkness at night. But it's because of our perspective and where we are on Earth, how we see the 8 major phases of the moon. The moon looks bright from Earth because it's in full sunlight. Because the moon is a sphere and orbits the Earth, we see it differently based on time. In this movie, the phase of the moon is based on the position of the moon and how much sunlight is shining from the right side. Overall, it's a day-night line that we see from Earth that represents the 8 phases of the moon. And we determine the phases of the moon by how much the moon is lit up by the sun.